Hi folks, this is Pastor Sarah with an Easter story for upper elementary kids. This is the Kids Church story for the month of April. Now, my first question for you is, how many Easter stories do you think exist in the Bible? Any guesses? It might be more than you think. We have 4 Gospels, and Jesus leaves the tomb in all 4 Gospels. And some of the Gospels have more than one story of Jesus appearing to individuals, to one person at a time, or to groups of people after the resurrection. Some people get confused by this because sometimes the stories don't always match up well with each other. And there have been some people who have felt like it was really important to kind of figure out how they might fit and make them fit together into one story. I think it's really wonderful that we have lots of different resurrection stories and that they don't really fit with each other all the time. The resurrection, just like everything else in the Bible, is a little bit messy, kind of like real life. Today, we are going to talk about one of the resurrection stories, one of the Easter stories that we have in the Bible. This one is about 2 disciples. They're called disciples, but they are not part of the 12 disciples that are most famous. We do know their names, though, or at least one of them. One of them was named Cleopas. We don't know whether the other disciple was a man or a woman, but a lot of people have guessed that the second person was probably a woman, maybe Cleopas's wife. These 2 disciples were in Jerusalem with Jesus when he died. They were scared like all the other disciples and very sad because they had hoped that Jesus would become king. They thought that Jesus was going to make everything in their country right again. And then he died. They decided to leave Jerusalem. And as they were walking on the road, they were talking with each other about how sad they were. Then a man came and joined them on the road and asked them, "Why do you look so sad?" They were a little bit surprised. They said, "Where have you been? Don't you know anything about what's happened in Jerusalem in the last 2 days? Jesus, the person that we thought was going to become king, he died. That's why we're sad." And then this stranger started talking about Scripture and telling them stories that actually helped them understand Jesus' death. It helped them fit what they had just experienced into this bigger picture of who they knew God to be and what God might be doing in the world. When they got to Emmaus, they asked this stranger, "Do you want to come and have dinner with us?" And the stranger said, "Yes, thank you." So they gathered around a table with some food and some drinks. And during dinner, the stranger did something that was really normal at a meal. He took bread and he gave thanks for it, and he broke the bread and he passed it to the disciples. And it was in that moment that the disciples recognized that the stranger sitting across the table from them was actually Jesus. Jesus who had just died. That Jesus was right there with them. And then, right as they realized that, he was gone. But they looked at each other. And maybe because there were two of them, they could confirm that what they had just seen wasn't their imagination. This really was Jesus alive again. And so instead of staying in Emmaus, they immediately got up and they ran all the way back to Jerusalem so that they could tell the other disciples that they had seen Jesus. I wonder what those disciples were feeling as they ran back to Jerusalem. Do you think they may have been worried that the other disciples wouldn't believe them? Who had ever seen someone who was dead become alive again? Strange news to share. Why do you think we still celebrate Easter 2,000 years after those events with Jesus and his disciples? There are some people who say, look, if this is real, if Jesus was dead and then he came back to life, then this is the most amazing thing that's ever happened in history. And of course we need to remember it and keep telling that story. Some people think that Jesus resurrecting from the dead proved something about who he was, that he was really God. Other people believe that Jesus being resurrected is the sign that everyone who follows Jesus will also be resurrected one day. Some people believe that Jesus coming back from death shows that Jesus is stronger than death, and that we don't have to be afraid of death anymore. Some people believe that all of us as Christians, through our whole lives, are sharing with Jesus in his resurrection. That when we're baptized, it's like a part of our life dies with Jesus in the tomb. And then we start a new life. A life where we are able to live without fear and without the bondage of sin. Here is a suggested activity for you and your family to do. I want you all to see if you can find a favorite Easter song. It could be a hymn from a hymnal. You could look up Easter hymns on YouTube. Or you could go watch our church's Easter service and pick your favorite song from that service. Find an Easter song that you love and listen to the words. And see if you can hear in those words of that hymn an answer to that question. Why are we still celebrating Easter 2,000 years after Jesus and his disciples walked the earth? I wonder if you have your own answer for that, for why you want to remember Easter and keep telling this story. It might be different than the ones that I've shared. It might be different than an answer in a hymn. But I think it's a good question to ask and to be thinking about. What does Easter mean to you? I hope that you have a great April.